question for you, do you think that your parents keep secrets from you? You probably answered yes. I hope you did, because they do. And they're not keeping secrets from us because they are, trying to lie to us or whatever. A lot of times they're going to keep secrets because they don't want to be a burden to us. They don't want to bother us. They know that we are, living busy lives, and they just don't want to add to it. They also are fearful that their independence may be slipping away, or they could even be embarrassed to ask for your help. So if you're, your big, strong dad, he's suddenly falling, he may be too embarrassed to tell you about that. Welcome to Aging in Style with me, Lori Williams. I'm an optimist by nature, and I believe you can follow your dreams at any age. My grandmother's journey with dementia ignited a passion in me to work with seniors. I've spent the past 13 years learning about seniors and aging. In my mid-50s, I followed my own dream and founded my company, where I use my expertise to help seniors locate housing and resources. On this podcast, we cover all aspects of aging. Join us each week to meet senior living experts and inspirational seniors who are following their dreams. The fact is, we're all aging, so why not do it in style? Hi, welcome to today's episode of Aging in Style with Lori Williams. Our topic today is going home for the holidays and tips to look for to make sure that our parents or grandparents or other senior loved ones are healthy and safe. So a lot of questions that I get over the years that I've been doing senior living, people who call me after they have gone home to visit at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they are just absolutely alarmed at the condition either of their parents' home or that there's been a significant decline in memory or just, in their health in general. So what happens is a lot of us live states away from our parents. I know that I do. That's the case here, that I'm in Texas and my mother's in Louisiana. So we don't get to see each other as often as we would like. So hopefully if you are able to visit with your parents, these are some tips, some red flags that I want to share with you so that you can be aware of these things. And, if it looks like your parents have declined or there's some issues, some things that are going on, we're going to put together a plan of action just so that you can get resources to help them stay safe and independent, because that's the bottom line here. We want our senior family members safe, healthy, and independent as long as possible. So, question for you, do you think that your parents keep secrets from you? You probably answered yes. I hope you did, because they do. And they're not keeping secrets from us because they are, trying to lie to us or whatever. A lot of times they're going to keep secrets because they don't want to be a burden to us. They don't want to bother us. They know that we are, living busy lives, and they just don't want to add to it. They also are fearful that their independence may be slipping away, or they could even be embarrassed to ask for your help. So if you're, your big, strong dad, he's suddenly falling, he may be too embarrassed to tell you about that, even though, clearly there's some solutions we need to put in place, and we need to find out what's going on, what's causing his falls. He may not be open to sharing that with you. So what you're going to do when you travel home to visit, with your family, or, we're living in the COVID time, so let's kind of think about this. Maybe we can't travel home, but we could always Zoom or FaceTime, or, there's other ways. We've got to get creative here. But let's just, from this point of view, we'll just be saying like you're going home and you're visiting your parents. So here's some things to look for that are red flags. Number one, when you arrive to see your parents, take it all in. Let's see how they look. How's their hygiene? How, physically, how are they looking? Has there been a significant weight loss that was unintended? Does your mom, does she look very frail all of a sudden when she didn't look that way in the past? Well, how are their clothes looking? Are their clothes dirty? All of this could speak to that maybe there could be some dementia going on. There could be just they're not feeling well. There's a lot of different reasons for that depression. So we want to just kind of take note of these things as I list them out. Number two, mobility. How are they getting around? So if the last time you visited, your dad was, walking fine, he was just doing great, like he's always done, but now he's kind of hunched over, Maybe he's shuffling his feet. Perhaps your mom stands up and she's very dizzy, looks very, just a little off balance. So these are some things to kind of look for and ask, and we'll get into that further in the podcast about having that conversation. But, some of these things could be maybe there's new medication that they're taking that's causing some dizziness. Maybe there's some, new health issue, something else going on. Are there bruises on them, that kind of unexplained bruises? And maybe they're laughing it off and not wanting to share with you, but just some things to sort of take in. We did a podcast with Jackie Archer, and it was episode number 20, Fall Prevention. I would recommend that you go listen to that one because it gives you lots of tips, things to look for when someone suddenly starts to fall, what's causing it, ways to help them stay safe and prevent falls. Really good episode to listen to. Third clue, what's something to look for when you go into their home. So you've kind of taken in their appearance, you've taken in, or how they are getting around. Let's take a look in the kitchen. Open the pantry up, look in the fridge. So is there no food, or the food that's in there, maybe like really not nutritious foods? So maybe there's chips, cookies, things that are just not healthy, just kind of a lot of snack foods, processed foods. Look in the fridge. This would be a change. If your mom always cooked fabulous, healthy meals and now there's nothing in the fridge, or there's science experiments in there, just moldy, nasty things, that's definitely a concern. Something's going on. Is mom just not wanting to cook anymore? Is she just sort of over that? Is she not able to? What's happening? So this is something to look into. Fourth red flag or clue to look for is check out the house. How does the house look? I mean, if your mom was always just a meticulous housekeeper and the house is a mess now, that's a clue. Is she in pain? Is she just, maybe her back is hurting? Is it just she just can't keep up with cleaning the house? Are there stacks of magazines and newspapers and just clutter everywhere? Not only is that concerning, but that's a fall hazard. And that's one of the things we want to do. We want to prevent them from falling. So just take in and look at the house, just see what's going on. If it doesn't look like what you're, accustomed to their house usually looking like, there's something going on. Look at the yard. Maybe your dad was one of these guys who his yard was his pride and joy. It was always perfectly mowed. And when, some people mow it like where it goes like diagonal or something. I'm not that fancy, but maybe that's how your dad was. And now the lawn is overgrown. It just doesn't look like it normally looks. So, is his health? Is something happening? Is he depressed? I mean, so many things. Fifth red flag, take a look at the car. Okay, so this one may be very surprising to you. Take a look. It may have dents and dings and the side mirror hanging off. The garage may have been hit a couple of times. So just kind of investigate that. And I know whenever I think of the car and seniors, it always reminds me of my grandfather. I remember visiting him in the early 80s, and I was probably like 16 or so. And he lived in New Orleans. And if you've ever been to New Orleans in the residential areas, a lot of times, especially kind of the older areas, their cars are lined up in front of the houses. So just lined up in the street, there's all these cars. So it makes the streets really narrow. And I remember my grandfather just, going to the grocery with him, and he's just in this huge boat of a car. We're just flying up this narrow street. And the whole time he's telling me, yeah, I hit a car at the grocery the other day, and this lady was so nice about it. And then I hit another car, and I'm thinking, oh, no, I think it's time he stops driving. So that's something to look for as well. How's the car looking? Sixth clue, change in their mood or behavior. If your mom was always a super happy, positive, peppy person, and all of a sudden she's anxious and depressed, and, that's just something we need to look into, what's happening. And what about hobbies? Maybe your mom was, she always sewed and she's not sewing now. What's happening? Is it physically that, her hands, does she have arthritis? Or if your dad was just a voracious reader and he's no longer reading, is it his vision? Is it, is he's not able to retain what he's reading? Just other clues to look for. Another one would be just like really low energy or disengaging with friends and family. So maybe you used to call your mom and you were on the phone for 45 minutes, and now you call and she just, 5 minutes. Yeah, I got to go. Not really engaged with the conversation. And then our last clue to look for is memory loss. So really important. And a lot of times, like I said, people will call me after they've gone home to visit. And this is one of the big things that they notice is that, oh my gosh, dad's so forgetful all of a sudden. Or mom is repeating the same story over and over. Maybe not changing their clothes. Like you're there for, say, a 4 or 5 day visit. You hear the shower, there's, your mom is showering, but then she comes out and she's wearing the same clothes that she has had on for your entire visit. That's, definitely a red flag. Misplacing items, short-term memory loss, just difficulty holding a conversation. Again, behavior changes. Big one to look for. Go in the kitchen and look at their cookware, the bottom of the cookware. If it's scorched on the bottom, this is a good indicator that they are forgetting food cooking on the stove, which obviously could be a fire hazard. So that is a big red flag for you. Also, a lot of clutter, unopened mail, unpaid bills, just bills stacking up. And again, I've had people call and tell me this, listen, my dad always, he was an accountant. He pays his bills and he's not opening the bills. There's all these bills that have not been paid. Again, something's going on with memory right there. Okay, these 7 red flags are the ones that we really need to be aware of. There's others, but I think these are the top ones to really be on the lookout for. So what's next? You need to have a conversation with your parents. And you know what? That's one of those things. I know I just said have that conversation and you probably got a lump in your throat. You might have got like that pit in your stomach because you know what? It's not easy to have these conversations with your parents. So the holidays, though, are a good time to do it. So what you're going to do is just get in the good space here. You're not going to be judgmental. You're not going to be preaching to your parents or accusing them of anything. You just want to just be there and kind of like form an alliance with them. Like, we're going to figure this out together. You're going to be very respectful because your goal is to be sure that, they're safe, that they're having the best quality of life, and you're going to help them maintain their independence because that's what everyone wants is independence. But there's things we can do to help them live a better life and be more independent. So to kind of start the conversation, here's a couple of ways that you could do that. You could share an article, like a magazine article or a story that you heard. For example, you notice your mom seems a little unsteady on her feet. Well, you might say, hey, you know what? I just listened to a podcast the other day about fall prevention. And, these walkers are pretty amazing. Have you thought about getting a walker and you could be more independent? That may be a way of opening a conversation. Just, keep it real casual. You could also just be very straightforward and ask permission to discuss a topic. So you could say, okay, Dad, when I've noticed something since I've been here visiting, I noticed that y'all don't have a lot of food in the pantry, in the fridge. What's going on? Is this something we can talk about? Because you could help them maybe get Meals on Wheels or whatever. You can find some solutions to help them with this that they may just be too embarrassed to talk to you about, but you're there to be helpful to them. You could also ask a doctor to be present or to be available. This is really good if someone needs to give up driving. You definitely want to put that on the doctor to say it's not safe to drive. That they take it much better, in my experience, if they hear from a doctor instead of from you saying you need to stop driving. Also, maybe someone from church, pastor, minister, dear friends, someone that they trust, have them come in and be part, like a support for you as you bring up some of these topics with them or red flags that you've seen. And another one that I really like is ask if they had experiences with their own parents. So like, for example, my mother, she had the experience of caring for her mother who had dementia. So she knows what that's all about. She saw red flags. She had to address them. She had to find solutions for her mother. And she did all that out of, love and respect for her mother to make sure that she was as independent as long as possible and had the care that she needed. So that's exactly what you're doing for your parents. You're coming to this from a place of love and respect for your parents, that, you want them to be happy, safe, healthy. So I think that's a good way to kind of start that conversation. So once you've kind of identified these red flags, you've opened the conversation, some communication with your parents, your next step is to make a plan. So you have noticed some red flags. You can't just put blinders on and be like, I didn't see that. You have to step up and you have to address it. And some could be a really simple fix. So for example, if your mom is, unsteady, kind of holding on to furniture, walking, let's look at getting a walker for her. So that's easy. Add a walker. Maybe help her clear some paths in the house. Maybe you notice that she's kind of building up a little clutter. There's some, newspapers and magazines, just things that look like, she could fall. That's a tripping hazard, or area rugs, things like that. So that's an easy fix. Maybe take the case of that there's no food in the house. Okay, let's figure out what's going on here. Is it that they're no longer driving? They're not comfortable going out? Your mom is just done with cooking. She doesn't feel good. She can't stand up for long at the stove and cook. Maybe they're also very lonely and depressed and they need that socialization. This would be a good example of needing an independent living community. So maybe it's time to open that conversation that, hey, this is just too much, taking care of the house, taking care of meals, and you guys are lonely. So let's look at what an independent living community would look like for you. So, they could get their meals, they could have other people to socialize with and do activities, and they would have transportation as well. Another case might be, you go home and you haven't seen mom in a year, and say she was a little forgetful a year ago. Well, now you're seeing some huge red flags. She's not changing her clothes. The house is a mess. The cookware's scorched. Her next door neighbor says to you, hey, your mom came over to my house at, 6 a.m. and was confused. This has happened before, y'all. So, these are huge red flags. So now maybe we need to go memory care because she needs to be safe. So I hope this kind of helps you see the big picture and what kind of red flags to look for when you are home visiting. And, I know this is a daunting task. Nobody likes to have this conversation with their parents. Nobody likes to think about our parents getting older and needing assistance. And it's a hard thing. We see these red flags, we have to act on them, and we have to open that conversation with them and help to make a plan. So I hope this helps you. And I want to also direct you guys over to my website because I have a lot of good resources, a lot of free resources over there. All my podcasts are listed there too, so you can go back and listen to the one on fall prevention. Also, sign up for my newsletter. I just started a newsletter, and we're going to be sending out all kinds of great information and resources and stuff. So be sure to go over to the website. It's www.loriwilliams-seniorservices.com. So that's what we have today, and you guys go look for those red flags, and if you find them, let's talk. I'm here for you. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.